Good morning. It is time for a video, and it's not going to be a tutorial today. Even though it is Tuesday, it's going to be a first look, and that is because yesterday, Lens protocol dropped. We're going to go deep today. It comes from the team behind Aave. It is a decentralized social graph, and it's composable. It's ready to build on. But what is it exactly? Is it a social network? Well, let's dig into the open letter that's here. This was shared around between a bunch of different people. It was signed, and it simply states what Lens Protocol is attempting to do and what they're about. It says, our digital identities have become inseparable from how we define ourselves. Social media has allowed us to find our communities and discover true self-expression. It holds the promise of connection, freedom, livelihood, and voice. We spend time building a unique selfhood across platforms, but we know they are antiquated, centralized systems. Web3 brings forth a renewed hope for what social media can be. It offers the ability for us to control how our content is used. We can have the power to own and monetize our content and community with no middleman or centralized data harvesting. We, the content creators of the world, deserve to hold the power and control over what we publish. And what is identity if not ours to own? All sounds wonderful, right? All sounds amazing. I am a content creator. We bump into this problem. Do we own what we publish? Do we own any of it? Well, yes and no. It sounds amazing, and we should really go deep on this because the team that's behind it, Aave, well, they built one of the finest DeFi protocols in the land. So there's a chance that this might just be the thing that we're looking for. In my opinion, this is where the metaverse starts. But we'll dig into all of that after this message from our sponsors. Scamwicks, insider order books, cascading liquidations. Suffer these compromises no longer when trading crypto futures. Enter GMX, a futures and swaps dex with low swap fees and zero price impact trades. Aggregated high-quality price feeds provide fair liquidations and pricing. GMX is available on Arbitrum and now Avalanche. Trade BTC, ETH, AvaX, and more securely from your wallet with up to 30 times leverage. GMX is mobile and desktop native, including limit orders and stop losses. Visit gmx.io today to start trading, learn about high-yield opportunities, and discover the Blueberry community. So Stani from Aave has been teasing some form of social media thing from Aave for some time now. Here he was at LizCon talking about the revolution in social media that's possible with Web3, and then he posted this. It's actually Vitalik standing in front of a slide here. It says, why social media? There's this widespread belief that existing platforms suck and we need better ones for multiple reasons. Centralized, arbitrary censorship and manipulation, low quality of discourse, engagement is very misaligned with quality. So this is basically the problem with social media, that it favors content that gets likes or gets shared, hence outrage. When things are outrageable, they tend to just fly. Do you know what I'm talking about here? Dan Olsen. So that's what Aave is trying to solve here. I saw this post from Buzz ADM. Aave's launch of the Lens protocol signals the dawn of decentralized social media. I think that's misleading because I don't think that's actually what is going on here. And it's also not like there haven't been attempts to do decentralized social media before. Do you remember Bitclout? We made a film about Bitclout. I was horrified by it, genuinely. Bitclout has worked on their offering. They rebranded to DeSo, the decentralized social blockchain. I don't know if anybody's using this. I know that my first experience of it was just so off-putting that I didn't want to go back there. It doesn't mean that it's bollocks. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It's just, it felt like just a sort of shitty version of what we already had, not a reimagining of anything. Then remember this, EOS Voice. They spent a fortune on this. It was, we are EOS. We are an enterprise-grade blockchain. We have so much money. We're going to just brute force a brand new social media platform. Totally fucking bombed. This thing, it was a shit show from the start. EOS really has been kind of abandoned by people. And I think it's probably unfair, but there's just so many issues with it. And it just showed that however much money you have, if you can't get the users, you are doomed to failure. This is the essential paradigm of Web 2. Massive scale, network effects, everything's like... And that's how you get the massive value. And that's what they were trying to disrupt, except they weren't disrupting it. They were simply taking that model and rebooting it in a pseudo Web3 format. What's happened to Voice? Well, now it's an NFT platform. I have no idea who's using this. It looks... No comment. And then this, Truth Social, the new social media platform from Trump. Hey, look, it's on the App Store. Does that tell you something? We're going to let you say whatever you want, except that we're going to make sure that you can say whatever you want on platforms in such a way that they won't ban us from the App Store. Yeah, we shall see whether that's even a thing. But there's no doubt that if you are banning users and you're not allowing free speech, then that is antithetical to Web3. Just is. So where can we start with all of this? Well, let's start with the Medium article. So they've handily provided a tilde. Lens protocol is a composable and decentralized social graph ready for you to build on so you can focus on creating a great experience, not scaling your users. That's the bit that caught my eye here, because all of these other social platforms, they depend on scaling users. But what they're promising here is that you don't have to. So what does that mean exactly? Well, it comes down to this idea of the social graph. And a social graph is basically just a pattern of connections between people and how they all relate to each other. It's what Facebook uses to serve you up media, and it looks at likes, it looks what's getting heat, and then it serves it up to you. And so you get these filter bubbles where people like something, and then the algorithm says, well, you liked that, so you'll like this, and you get these reinforcing feedback loops where everyone just gets the stuff that they want and nothing that they don't want. And so the upshot of that is that you get a lot of heavily reinforced beliefs with no counter-arguments and no balance, and therefore people entrench and become very, very cloistered from anything that might be an opposing idea. That is not necessarily a good thing. So that's basically what's going on here. This social graph, if you could unpack Facebook's social graph, if you could look inside and see what's going on, you would be able to see the way that that material is served to you. You will be able to see, okay, well, here's a lot of people who like Pokemons, and so that's why they're getting served up Pokemon. And so you would be able to analyze that data, decide whether that's the data for you, and then decide to move there, to build a home there, to invite other people to join you there. And you could see very clearly whether what you were being served was genuine or not, probably. So there would be a lot of data that you could see, but we don't see any of that. We have no idea what's going on with that social graph. So the idea of this is that the social graph is decentralized and it's open to anyone. And that's what they mean by that you don't have to scale your users. So if you imagine the social graph is just open to everyone, and it's kind of like the Ethereum network, anyone could build an app on it. So you can build an app that's like, well, this is a place for people who like Pokemons to talk about it. It could be a group, it could be, oh, I'm a Pokemon creator. But now you could see, okay, on this social map, that's where Pokemon people hang out, and we're going to go and put everything there. You don't need to worry about users because the users are just there on the graph. It's like we can build a DeFi protocol and we know that there are users that use Ethereum and that are financially probably sophisticated enough to interact with DeFi, and they can do if they want to, and so there we are. With social media platforms, you have to bring users to you and get them using on a daily basis. Whereas here, they're already users. There are people with profiles, and now you can simply invite them to use that presence to interact with what you're offering them. It's very Web3, and it kind of plays into this idea that I've had about the metaverse, which is when we think about it as this big scaled up sort of overarching immersive experience. The problem I see with all of that is that we're jumping to the scaled up, fully fleshed out, fully realized version of an experience without actually considering what it takes to get us there. What are the important kind of ground roots parts of that? The portability, the interoperability, where the value resides. With Lens, we're starting to see what I think is the core of this, which is your value travels with you. The metaverse is not about, wow, look, it's all around me and it's big and there's this land. No, the metaverse is, I have this value, it goes with me. And wherever I go, it goes. And therefore, I'm free to go and be wherever I want to be, but the value resides with me. That is what I think is so interesting about Lens, and that is why it's worth doing a deep dive on. The key thing about this platform is composability. Since users own their own data, they can bring it to any application built on top of Lens protocol. What's also interesting about that data is going to be auditable. So you could build analytics tools on top of it, just like June Analytics, and see exactly what's going on. You can't do that with Facebook. You probably can't do it with Bitclout either, but you will be able to here. Another thing that's interesting about this is dynamic NFTs. So NFTs form a big part of Lens protocol. And I know that you're probably going, oh gosh, more NFTs. And I was too, to be fair. But we have to remember that NFTs aren't really about crypto art or about collectibles, about anything. NFTs really are just a way of representing a specific set of data in a unique way and then adding it to a blockchain. So if you want unique user profiles with unique conditions and logic attached, then NFTs are the way to do it. And that logic is a key part of Lens protocol, because you have little pieces of logic that can be attached to NFTs that can allow you to set permissions or set conditions. And because of all of that, you create this very rich and textured kind of interconnected, I mean, they call them roots, but this ecosystem. And that's how it has to function, and NFTs are the way you have to do it. That's why they built it on Polygon, by the way. So there's a little NFT thread here. So lensprotocol.eth is the Twitter handle, and they basically, here we go. They talk about it. Profile NFTs are the main primitive of the Lens protocol. These dynamic NFTs are composable, non-custodial, and permissionless. When you follow someone, you're granted a follow NFT. And then there's some publications. Publications are kind of core to all of this. And so really, I mean, I would have loved to do like the top-down version of this, but actually you kind of have to dig in. So you can go to the documents in the developer garden, and that's where we will find the information that we want. So I would highly recommend going through this. It's not long. The Git book is always a good place to find more information about a protocol. But here we go. So the major concepts, the profile. So the profile NFT is the main object in the Lens protocol. You have an address, you have a profile NFT, and that address can own multiple profile NFTs. So you could be, someone who's interested in or talks about Pokemons, or you could be someone that talks about ice hockey. You can have different profiles for that, but those NFTs are unique and you own them. What else? That profile NFT can post publications, and it also contains a history of all the posts, mirrors, and comments that you generate. We'll talk about mirrors in a bit. It also contains a follow module, which is going to allow other people to follow you. And these modules are kind of important because there are NFTs and then there are modules that define logic on top of those NFTs. And there's different ones, and I'm sure they're going to create more as this matures. But there's fundamentally just a very simple concept here. An NFT, a certain type of NFT can have a certain type of logic attached to it, and you can decide whether or not you want that logic to be applied when you create the NFT in the first place. So what else do we think? The question I had about this was, if these are NFTs, can you retroactively delete them? Or can you go back and get rid of them, or are they locked on chain forever? I suspect they probably are locked on chain forever, but it's something to think about. So let's look at the publication now. So any profile NFT can publish, but what does that actually mean? Well, they say publications are the lifeblood of the Lens protocol. All of the original content, and that's a key concept here, original content. So there's primary types, posts, comments, and mirrors. I suspect there'll be more in the future. But for now, very familiar. Posts are the base object. So, it could be as simple as a tweet, but it could be a blog, it could be a video, whatever that core piece of content actually is. And then you have mirror and comment providing additional functionality. We'll get into mirrors and comments in a bit because those are kind of interesting. So these publications are posted directly to your profile. They can reference IPFS, Aave, AWS using a content URI. And that's kind of important. And they have two modules attached to them. They have a collect module and a reference module. So that collect module is interesting because it will allow others to mint your publication. So they'll be able to take what you've published and turn it into an NFT and mint it so they can collect it. So my question about that is, how does the permissioning work? Because it's not entirely clear here. I'm sure if I dug further, I would be able to find that out. There's also a reference module. So this reference module is going to basically determine who can comment and mirror your publication. So two different sets of logic attached to it. The collect module is referencing the actual media, and then the reference module is referencing the post itself. So then we get to the comments section. Comments, well, I think we're familiar with that. Comments will allow others to comment on your post. They're treated the same as base publications. So yes, they are NFTs, and they live in your user profile NFT. And that means that you own them. So imagine, for instance, you want to post on a video that I've made about a particular YouTuber who doesn't like NFTs. Then not only can you post, but you can also own that post. And this comes down to the point, which is, if it's original content, we have to think about what content actually is. Sometimes people write really well-considered and well-articulated comments on videos, and you think, wow, that's actually a great comment. And sometimes people spend a really long time writing these. Well, they don't own that. But under this system, well, they do. So would that incentivize people to write better comments and to create comments that are artful? Well, maybe. But if they did, then they could mint them. They could be, well, at least they could own them. And so they could do something with that. And of course, because all of these comments are attached to your profile entity, they form a kind of cultural history for your profile entity. And therefore, the way you comment and how you curate your own comment history could become really, really important. Mirror. So this graph here explains exactly what mirror is. I post something, you can mirror it. A mirror is basically the curation tool. So it's saying, okay, I liked your post, I'm going to share it. I'm not going to mint it, but I am going to share it. So with mirroring, you don't collect, you're only reposting. But here's what's interesting about these. If someone then collects it and off your mirror and not off the original, and then sells it and makes some money off it, then you're entitled to a piece of that. So it's kind of like a referral link, which I thought was kind of interesting. So again, these can be permissioned. And then we have the collect module. That's the next one. It's a monetization feature, basically. So when you publish a piece of content, you can decide whether or not you want to add this collect module to it. And then people could collect it, and you could set a price for that if you wanted to, and definitely a way to make some money off that. Then there's a follow module. This is where it gets interesting, because when you follow someone, you're given an NFT. Yeah, it's an actual NFT. So you can basically set permissions through those through those follow NFTs, and they're also given unique numbers as well. And those unique numbers then become the basis around which you can define governance. I still need to dig in further into exactly how that might work exactly, because there's a bunch of logic which is in the next section, which I don't fully understand at this point. But creating a unique identifying feature for this follow NFT would mean that, for instance, say you wanted to reward the first 500 people that followed you with a specific governance proposal, task, or a reward or something, then you can set logic when you put a proposal together that you'll be able to do something with. What I think all of this is designed to do is to say, when a profile gets to a certain scale, it's quite possible that it might want to turn itself into a DAO. And to do that, it can be quite painful. So they've decided to build in these mechanisms by which governance should be a little bit easier or a little bit more straightforward, but they baked it in from the start. And so in this next section with the build and governance, you've got all these parameters which will define certain things that you can do in governance, but we'll have to see what that looks like at scale. So yeah, but the question I had on this one was, how it would need to be set up correctly, and what room would there be to modify these things further down the line if you needed to? Because I can see as things scale, as they grow, that the conditions you set up at the start might need to change. And as far as I understand it, in DAOs at the moment, it's quite difficult to do. But, we're figuring this stuff out as we go along. So I know the question you're thinking here, which is that sounds like a lot of NFTs, and it really, really does. I would think it's unlikely that all of these NFTs are going to be represented by a cat picture or anything like that. They'll probably feel a lot more like, for instance, Visor NFTs or the Uniswap LP positions. It's just there. It's in your wallet. But of course, as it is an NFT, you can sell it. I don't know quite how that would all work. If it's your own profile NFT, could you sell it? If it's not connected to your address, would it just then die? I don't know. Some questions to ask there. And obviously, when this thing scales up, if we imagine that it will scale up, then will the planet stop moving? Because obviously each NFT creates enough electricity to power a battleship, as we well know. That's the only thing that gives me pause here. That's just a lot of NFT minting and a lot of NFT interaction. But it's certainly, definitely interesting. So what else should we think about here? Let's go back to the main website. The last social media handle you'll ever have to create. It does sound interesting here. The ability to take your social presence and move to wherever you need to go, the same way we do with DeFi protocols. We just have a wallet. We go and just interact with whatever we want to interact with. But let's bear in mind here that Lens is not an app. It's a protocol for creating a decentralized social graph. What you build on top of it, well, that's up to you. So they are actually building a proof of concept social app, which is coming soon. And then there's this fair is fair drop mechanics. There's a fair launch component to all of this coming along. I joined the Discord. This is what I found in the fair launch section of the Discord. I found GM, some comments, but mostly GM. Yeah, well, make of that what you will. So the cynical part of me is like, yes, I've heard this before a million times. What I'm seeing here is something different because it's this composability feature. It's not about scaling users and getting tons and tons of users. It's about using this social graph. And that I think is very, very interesting. So we shall have to see how this thing scales up. But this is the first time I've actually been moderately excited about a social media app that's decentralized and what it might be able to do. Because of course, this is not a social media app, it's a protocol. But I hope that was interesting. I hope that gave you at least some insight into what Lens protocol actually is. That's it for now. If you have any suggestions for First Look, I will definitely check them out. Comment below, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. And until next time, I will see you where the sun don't shine. Peace!